What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again with the Stochastic Fantasy Football YouTube channel. And today we are talking some risers and fallers over the last week in best ball. We will be referring to underdog ADP all throughout the video. Before we get started, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all other content goes live. And we are brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. They have a no-brainer deal, which you guys need to take advantage of right away. And to make it really easy for you guys, just click the link in the video description below or use the promo code Stochastic. And here's what you're going to get. First of all, it is a $100 match deposit bonus. That means you put in $100, they're going to give you 100 more. That is 4 entries into Best Ball Mania 4, one of their big flagship tournaments with millions of dollars in total prizes. You can use that money on pick'em contests if you're not in a legal betting state. DFS contests, they have it all, always innovating, especially with the best ball, which is what I really like. But it's not just that. You are also going to get our free best ball package. Yes, it's free. That means rankings for underdog, drafters, DraftKings, optimizers, anything fantasy football related. All you have to do is click that same link or use the promo code Stochastic. You sign up and you'll be contacted with a link to access that package. If you're concerned with your play, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. But without further ado, let's get into the show. Interesting week in the best ball streets. Bring you to some graphics, and we're going to talk about risers first. Kyler Murray, his ADP has jumped to 153.2. Last week, he was going in the 160s. He is up 14 spots on Underdog Fantasy. Currently puts him as the QB 21. Coming off the board just behind Derek Carr and Matthew Stafford. This largely has to do with some rumblings regarding the ACL tear. If you guys remember, tore that in week 12 last year. And there have been a lot of rumors this offseason that Kyler Murray might not be ready for the start of the year. He might not play at all. If you read the tea leaves, you'll hear people say, all right, Arizona's kind of set up to potentially make a run for Caleb Williams. This team is going to be bad. Why would they rush Murray back when they could potentially, lose games without him and then get that number 1 pick? But early indications are that Murray's going to be ready sooner rather than later. Kind of puts the Cardinals in a tough spot. Maybe they look to trade him. I'm not sure. But if we get anything close to 17 games from Murray, even if his mobility is somewhat affected by the ACL, he's still coming as a supreme value right now. Our early rankings pegged him as the QB 26. That was kind of under the assumption that he wouldn't play most of the year. But now with these rumblings coming out that Murray is going to be ready sooner rather than later, he'll be getting a bump in the rankings soon here. Pretty reasonable rise. Going to our second player, we're going to middle of the rankings, closer to the top. We have Cam Akers, Los Angeles Rams running back. ADP of 65.4. He is up 6.5 spots, was in the 70s last week. I think this is just people catching up on the backfield that the Rams are going to be fielding this year. Behind Akers, we have Ronnie Rivers, Zach Evans, Kyron Williams, and Sony Michel. Rivers had 14 touches last year. Evans is a 6th-round rookie. Williams went undrafted in 2022, and he weighs 195 pounds. And Michel is probably completely washed at this point. Last year, he averaged 2.9 yards per carry, and it looks like he's just more of a depth signing than anything else. Akers actually had a decent year. He's been in and out of the doghouse at times throughout his Rams career, but return to his efficiency, over 4 yards per carry, solid for him. Has prototypical size, can catch passes. This is a player we've seen play really well at times this year. So he's now jumped up to RB21. He currently slots in as RB23 in our rankings, which is pretty consistent actually for us. And he'll be a player I think we continue to draft throughout the offseason. So I think this is a predictable rise from Cam Akers. And last riser, another predictable riser, Joe Mixon. This is a guy we've been way ahead of on ADP for a while, and that gap is sort of closed. But currently coming off the board at 46.1, he was at 52 last week. That is a rise of 6 slots. We saw Mixon just restructure his contract, and I think that's the rise right there. Previously, we'd seen rumors circulating that Mixon might get suspended. He might get cut. Now, he settled all that off-the-field stuff in court. He's no longer a cut candidate with the restructure. And there's nothing behind him. Samaje Perine, gone. That leaves Trevion Williams and rookie Chase Brown as the presumed change of pace backs. Now, it's not out of the question that the Bengals sign somebody, But I think what they paid him indicates that they're pretty confident that Joe Mixon can handle the work here. And they've used a lot of questionable backups behind Mixon in the past. So I don't think they're going to run out and sign, like a Kareem Hunt or Dalvin Cook or something like that. And right now we have Mixon as RB13. We were anticipating him coming into the year as the bell cow back. So his jump to RB15 overall closes that gap, but we are still a little ahead of ADP on Joe Mixon. All right, we're going to go to our faller section now. Some of the biggest fallers in Underdog Fantasy over the week. A lot of them were the same, so I won't rehash the Tyquan Thornton, Devontae Parker stuff, or Jacoby Myers, anything like that. But one we're not going to talk about today is Treylon Burks in relation to DeAndre Hopkins, just because that signing happened yesterday. Not sure how far Burks will fall, but anticipate talking about him on next week's show. And for the purposes of drafting, I would not be taking Burks at ADP. I'd wait, see where you can get him when he falls. First faller is Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers. He's down 7.6 spots. Current ADP is 160.8 after going in the 150s. This might just have to do with Kyler jumping. So if you look, they just flip-flop spots. Love goes down to QB 22. Kyler goes up to QB 21. And I do think this makes some sense. There's concerns with Love. He's coming off the board just ahead of Kenny Pickett. I think most of the concerns stem with basically he's considered one of the most overdrafted quarterback prospects in the first round in recent years. Green Bay is one of the worst skill position groups in the NFL. Christian Watson headlines that, but otherwise we're talking about 2 rookie tight ends, Romeo Dubes, rookie Jaden Reed. It's going to be a really weak crop of receivers in Green Bay. Love has mobility, but he hasn't always used it, so that's a concern too. Does he actually lean on his legs? So he's falling. We currently have him as QB 18 based on his rushing upside, weak divisional opponents, and basically just the alternatives you deal with in this range. You can kind of take shots on like Derek Carr, who we know exactly what he is, or the unproven upside of Jordan Love. So that's why we have him slightly ahead of ADP. But I think that explains the fall here. He'll be a guy I continue to scoop late. Packers stack's just extremely cheap. Next up, we go to Dalvin Cook, down 6.5 spots from 83.4 down to 89.9. That puts him as RB28 on Underdog Fantasy. Very reasonable price for Dalvin Cook right now. I'm presuming that the fall on Underdog Fantasy just stems from him being unsigned. And I think the longer he goes unsigned, the better chance are that we're going to see him fall more. There is a shortage of available starting running back positions. You look across the NFL at teams that, might actually have interest in Dalvin Cook. A lot of them are going to put him in a committee role unless there's an injury in camp, which that happens almost every year. So maybe Cook holds out until then. But I mean, some of the best landing spots you'd presume, like Tampa Bay, that team's going to be bad. I don't know if they want to sign a guy like Dalvin Cook like that anyway. But right now, I think we're looking at Cook as potentially going to a committee of some sort, unless, again, we see a catastrophic injury from somebody. Hope that doesn't happen. Our rankings have him as RB29, which puts him almost in line with his current ADP of RB28. So we were a little behind on Dalvin Cook and still are, but it's much, much closer now than it had been in the previous week where Cook was almost a top 80 pick. Last one here, and a really interesting one to talk about, is Dalton Kincaid, ADP of 133.6. He is down 6 spots. This one is a little interesting to me because we haven't really seen any news, but I think he was just getting drafted aggressively after coming off the board. It's a first-round rookie tight end. Interestingly, he's behind Greg Dulcich in ADP, but just ahead of Dalton Schultz. And this evaluation requires some nuance here because we are talking about a rookie. And rookie, especially at the tight end position, generally struggle. But Kincaid is first-round draft capital. He's not your standard rookie tight end. Like, this guy played a ton in the slot at Utah, so he honestly plays a little bit more of like a flex tight end role, kind of like Kyle Pitts. And he'll be with Josh Allen. Not only that, but in an offense that really doesn't have a second pass catcher outside of Stephon Diggs. We saw Gabe Davis kind of fall flat in that role last year. So our rankings currently have Kincaid as tight end 13. He's kind of right in line with ADP. But this has to do with some of the options behind Kincaid. Like, we don't have him any higher because you can get Dalton Schultz later. You can get some really proven options at tight end, which kind of creates a little vacuum at the position when you have unproven guys like Dulcich and Kincaid going in the same range here. But we like a couple tight ends after. With that said, still willing to take shots on Kincaid at ADP just as an attachment to a Josh Allen offense outside the top 130 picks. All right, that'll do it for us today. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be back next week with more risers and fallers. Let me know in the comment section what you think of these players. If you agree with their rise, disagree, I would love to hear it. Hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Otherwise, thank you for watching again, and we will catch you guys next time.